I was about to spar. Before I was about to spar Tank, he was sparring this big boy.
A heavyweight.
Heavyweight boy. And Tank hit that nigga. He hit him so hard that he was on the top of the rope just like this.
Oh!
To speed Gervonta Tank Davis, if he put on the right weight, put the right weight on, and have the lean muscle right, he can look fantastic somewhere in the mid-150s, dare I say, close to 160 against Jake Paul.
In shocking unseen footage, Gervonta Davis reportedly drops a heavyweight sparring partner while preparing for his upcoming clash with Jake Paul. The clip highlights Tank's trademark power and perfect timing as he lands a devastating left hand that ends the session instantly. Fans are calling it proof that Davis's speed and precision remain on another level, even when facing opponents much larger than him. Showbiz the Adult predicts that Gervonta Davis will weigh in around 154 pounds for his fight with Jake Paul, shutting down claims that Tank will be undersized. He points out that Davis has walked around that weight before, so it won't be unfamiliar territory. Showbiz even mentions that Tank has trained at 160 pounds, making this jump far less drastic than people assume. He stresses that Davis has spent years sparring with bigger fighters, perfecting his timing, reflexes, and counterpunching against heavier foes. That experience, combined with his explosive power and ring IQ, gives him a major edge. Confident in his call, Showbiz declares that Jake Paul's size won't save him once Tank connects clean. Boldly, he predicts that Gervonta Davis will knock Jake Paul out with ease.
150s, dare I say, close to 160 against Jake Paul. And dare I say it, I think that's the right thing for him to do. Why? I've been saying this. Number one, fighters need to start fighting closer to their walk-around weight. They're just healthier that way. They're just better and healthier that way. I mean, I know it's probably surprising them too. Like, that was the best I've seen Terrence Bud Crawford. Lamont Roach, he's fighting Pitbull at 140, coming from 130 and a pit stop at 135. You have Shakur Stevenson talking about fighting Teofimo Lopez. They're very close to making that fight at 140. And I think all of them would look their best there, especially Roach, where he ain't knocking nobody out down there at 130. But I bet you he'll be swatting far more at 140. Gervonta Tank Davis, I think, just like the others, fighting closer to your walk-around weight is just going to be one of the better performances for Gervonta Tank Davis. He's going to learn a lot about his body. He's going to learn a lot about himself and where he should campaign moving forward. Maybe even meeting Roach in that rematch at 140 himself. Also, another reason why I think it behooves him to come in knocking at 160 pounds is because of Jake Paul. It's not like Tank is going to dodge every punch Jake Paul throws, all right? Some of those going to land, and more than likely it's going to land on his guard. Tank is going to have his guard up. We need for him to be solid enough, his foundation and his base solid enough, so when Jake Paul hits him with those shots, he doesn't go flying around the ring.
Tank has reportedly been working with much larger sparring partners to prepare for the Jake Paul matchup. But this is nothing new for him. Since the early stages of his career, Davis has consistently tested himself against heavier opponents, using those sessions to refine his accuracy and timing. With his explosive power and high fight IQ, handling bigger fighters has never been an issue for him. In the newest training footage, Gervonta Davis appears sharper, leaner, and more locked in than ever. Each punch he throws blends raw power with perfect precision, proof of years of discipline. His footwork remains light, yet every movement carries intent and control. Those watching can sense that every strike on the heavy bag follows a calculated rhythm. Observers note the intensity in his eyes and the smooth balance between speed and strength. The clips alone show just how serious Davis is about this fight. Analysts across boxing agree that he looks better than he has in years, calling him ready for war. The combination of his power, timing, and ring command during camp has reignited talks about how dangerous Tank still is at the elite level. One of the biggest debates surrounding this fight is the weight difference. Some argue Jake Paul's natural size gives him an advantage, while others believe Tank's skill will cancel it out. Many fans question whether the size gap could trouble Davis, but those who know his history recall how often he's faced bigger men in the gym and in fights. Supporters defend him, saying, "Boxing isn't about size, it's about timing, precision, and intelligence." Tank's defensive mastery and counterpunching make him a nightmare for anyone, regardless of weight. His camp remains sure that his ability to handle pressure and adapt to movement will let him use Jake's size against him. For Davis, this bout isn't about proving power, it's about proving skill.
WBA lightweight champion Gervonta Davis, who's unbeaten in 31 professional contests, takes on the self-proclaimed problem child Jake Paul, one of the most influential and marketable global personalities. Paul and Davis square off in Miami after doubts around the fight being sanctioned in Georgia triggered a change in venue. Neither fighter can weigh more than 195 pounds. The weight is perhaps the most surprising factor. Paul has boxed most of his career around 200 pounds, the cruiserweight limit, but did tip the scales at 227 pounds when he faced off against Iron Mike Tyson last year. Davis, much smaller in stature, competes at the 135 pound mark and has also won world honours at super featherweight. And despite some discussions about possibly dropping down to 10 ounces, the pair seem set to wear 12-ounce gloves. And in terms of distance, despite the exhibition tag, the fight will play out over 10 3-minute rounds with 3 scoring judges at ringside, but the result will not be officially recorded on their professional records.
Lamont Roach has been outspoken about his issues with Davis, claiming there are still unresolved tensions between them. His recent comments have fueled discussion, with analysts picking up on the bitterness in his tone. Many suggest Roach's frustration comes less from real conflict and more from envy over Tank's success and financial dominance. The two once shared mutual respect, but now Roach's remarks seem to carry a personal sting. Observers believe he struggles to accept how Davis continues to command headlines and massive paydays while others fade into the background. Boxing insiders note that when fame and fortune enter the mix, rivalries often turn emotional. For Davis, though, these distractions don't faze him. He stays silent, focused, and lets his work in the gym speak for itself.
Off rip, the question is direct. Reportedly, Tank's going to make $40 million around there to fight Jake Paul. Would you do the same thing if you were in the situation? And he's like, actually, this is what I explained before. You're beating around the bush. It's really a yes or no. I would do it. I would take the 40 mil, or I wouldn't take the 40 mil. But let's listen to this long, drawn-out explanation.
There's about $40 million that he's going to get paid. If you were in his shoes, wouldn't you do the same thing?
See, now, this is something that I explain and express, and I hope everybody gets. That opportunity is an opportunity that you probably cannot pass up. But it's about how you handle it. It's about how you go about it. A lot of people don't know they actually exercise his rights to the rematch, so that contractually binds us to a fight. You cannot breach that unless you do what you have to do to handle the business, to be like, okay, well, we mutually agree to let you move on and or swindle around and fight Jake Paul for this money. If you think I'm going to sit back by the wayside and sit there and be like, well, even though I'm contracted to fight this guy for this amount of money on this certain day, I'm just going to sit here and be cool with, oh, he might not ever fight me, and he's going to go fight and get paid and get this money, and I'm not supposed to get anything.
Boxing analysts have often argued that Davis doesn't get the credit he truly deserves. They point out how his opponents gain major recognition after facing him, proving just how much influence he holds in the sport. Fighters who were once unknown suddenly become global names simply because they shared the ring with Tank. This pattern highlights his star power and his ability to elevate anyone he fights. Critics who say he hasn't faced enough top competition are reminded that his presence alone can make or break a career. Experts emphasize that his wins don't just define him as a knockout artist. They showcase him as a cornerstone of modern boxing who carries the sport's attention on his shoulders.
Ongoing discussion in the boxing world about Gervonta Davis and Gervonta Davis his resume, who he's going to fight, the competitors that he's going to fight. And every once in a while, something happens that proves that Gervonta Davis is the face of that. If he's not the face of boxing because people just don't want him to be that, man, he is real close to it, because other than Canelo Alvarez, and even consider Canelo Alvarez included, nobody in boxing has divisions circulating around him like Gervonta Davis does. And that was proved during this Lamont Roach versus Pitbull Cruz announcement for their pay-per-view. Just think about this. Gervonta Davis, they always say that Gervonta Davis has a poor resume, but yet Gervonta Davis, guys that fight Gervonta Davis, lose to Gervonta Davis, or get a draw to Gervonta Davis, can fight one another and make an anticipated pay-per-view between the two of them. Because that fight with Pitbull Cruz is a very, very popular fighter with Mexican fight fans. Lamont Roach got a lot of name exposure with black fight fans and Mexican fight fans and white fight fans, all with his draw that he got against Gervonta Davis. Now they believe that this is going to be able to be a profitable endeavor for a pay-per-view. Now, let me also tell you that Rolly Romero, who was somebody else that Gervonta Davis fought in the past, will be on a pay-per-view that's going to be successful, most likely, when he defends his WBC.
Stephen Fulton came forward to defend Davis from constant criticism that is only fighting for money. Fulton stressed that every boxer has the right to secure their future after years of risking their health inside the ring. He noted that Tank has already achieved greatness, winning world titles and delivering unforgettable performances, so taking big money fights now makes perfect sense. According to Fulton, fighters must balance legacy with financial stability, especially in a career that can end suddenly. His message reminded fans that Davis has earned the right to choose fights that benefit him both personally and professionally. Support from a respected name like Fulton reinforced that Davis's choices come from maturity and strategy, not greed.
Anybody in that position would have taken that fight, especially with the payout. It's like, that's a no-brainer, but I understand. I still feel for Lamont, that's my boy. Like, he still want his rematch. But then when you be realistic about the money situation, you're changing your whole family life. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's people hate on it because they're not in that position. I'm not saying Lamont. I'm speaking like other boxers. Be like, oh, he this for that. He's this. It's a side quest. It's a little side quest. Because what happened when Floyd and all these guys went on WWE, but then they get right back to what they doing? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's another little side quest. I'm all for people just getting their money. So get the best, make the most that you can out of this entertainment world. Because, I mean, I don't know. I would have done it as far as the money aspect, because none of us would deny that money. They talking like they would, none of them would deny that money.
Luke Thomas offered a different perspective. While praising Davis's knockout power and elite technique, he observed something unusual this time. In interviews and appearances, Tank seemed far calmer and less fiery than usual before a big bout. Thomas said it felt as if Davis viewed this fight more as a business move than a true challenge. He suggested that maybe the hype surrounding Jake Paul, rather than the competition itself, was what caught Tank's interest. Still, Thomas acknowledged that even a slightly less motivated Davis is a serious threat, as his natural skill, timing, and ring experience give him an edge very few can match.
So in that sense, it's a little bit different. It's not different in the sense of a boxer in his prime or relative prime straying off the path, but this one is not. It's not like someone else, in a similar weight. It's like completely the opposite, and so that makes it, I think, look and feel weird. And then on top of it, obviously, Gervonta's got other business to handle. He looked to me, Gervonta, absolutely, completely disinterested. Even at the beginning of this year, and dude, even at the pre-fight Lamont Roach stuff, Tank was talking about how much time he has left in boxing, which he was sort of wasn't much. The Lamont Roach fight, it blew up in his face, but Lamont Roach was cherry picked. I think Tank thought, I'll just fight another guy from, the mid-Atlantic area who's, remember Roach came up from 30 to 35 to fight him, and Tank thought he was just going to cruise, and then it blew up in his face, and, you're left with that. So, you're making a point about like, oh, he's got this obligation. That's true, but he was already fucking around. He was already taking opponents that, again, I think Roach showed everyone that was a mistake, but put yourself in Tank's mind. Tank was taking a fight against someone he was clearly, in his mind anyway, better than, and was just going to cruise. So he was already in that state. Then you marry that with statements like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this and blah, blah, blah. And, I'm worried about going to therapy because it'll take away my competitive edge. And
that wraps it up for today's video. Stay tuned for more updates. Until next time.